chairs the school board of governors. Did you like the chairperson?
The school governing body was chaired by Bob Scratchit, and I hated the man the first time I saw him. He doesn't even like children. How did he get that job?
Do you think that the school governing body made the right decision when the proposal came up to shut the school? Or do you think that there were some dodgy dealings going on behind the scenes?
No, I do not think the school governing body made the right decision. That's why I was fired. Anyways, I think it was dodgy from the beginning. Bob Scratchit was behind that supermarket proposal from the beginning, I tell you. He always wanted the school to close down.
Mr. Frost, you are chair of the village committee. Who else is on it?
Okay, I'm the chair of the village committee. Everybody looks to me to help get everything going on. Declan Halls is the secretary, and Chris Tingle, he's the treasurer. There's lots of other people on the committee too, but really the three of us are the ones who do all the work. Okay, the village committee asked me to ask him. I was totally surprised that he agreed to do it. It's not like him at all. I mean, he's got all of this room, and of course, he's not going to provide anything other than the space, so we had to bring all the food and drink.
Mr. Frost, you are always helping people out. I'm sure I saw you around Gabe Bunton's the other week. What were you doing there? You look to have had some very dusty boxes.
Okay, yes, I was at Gay's, and her last tenant left all of these boxes in the attic, and she needed some help getting them out. And hey, I'm willing to help anybody anytime. All you got to do is ask. So yes, I was over there. Yes, we had a bunch of empty boxes, but they just went straight to the dump. That's all we did with them.
Miss Reith, you know a lot about what's going on in the village. Do you know anyone who might want to kill Bob Scratchit? Perhaps the poison pen rider?
Needless to say, I am still mad as ever with him. Mad enough to kill, perhaps, though I didn't do that. Nearly everyone else in the village has motive for murder as far as Bob Scratchit is concerned. He was such a horrible man. However, I am fairly sure the person who writes the poison pen letters is not a likely candidate.
I saw you and Bob Scratchit having a very frank discussion, an exchange of views in the village square just the other day. What were you arguing about?
Bob Scratchit and I had a big argument in the center of the village just the other day over his refusal to let the villagers celebrate their annual feat on their traditional field. I cited a lot of common bylaws that backed up my claims for rights to the ground, but Bob Scratchit continued to stonewall me. He said he bought the land and that a thorough search was done of the bylaws when he purchased the property and the rights lapsed years ago.
Do you know if Bob Scratchit likes fruit cake? Could he have stolen the fruit cake? What is fruit cake?
Bob Scratchit loved my fruit cake. In fact, it was the only thing he ever bought in my shop. I hated having to sell his fruit cake to him. The more regular customers had to come in and buy something, they had to wait in line. I did, however, bring some tonight. And if Bob hasn't seen it, it's hidden here somewhere.
And what is special about this recipe?
The thing about my fruit cake is the recipe is handed down from my great-aunt and her great-aunt. It contains a core of homemade marzipan, which I make with just a dash of amaretto. It gives it a bit of zing.
Miss Bunting, who lived in the house before you, and did you have any suspicions about what might be in the attic? Was there anything valuable or peculiar in your attic?
Well, it is true. I did have suspicions about what might be in my attic because, you know, when I went into the attic, I realized an exterminator had had that house before me, and I had some suspicions there might have been, oh, I don't know, some poisons, things that you exterminate with in the attic. Well, it was true. He had left some things. You know, as an exterminator, he got rid of rats, he got rid of wasps, all types of vermin. And so I knew that I was not wrong. Yeah, he had left a lot of stuff. there was an old wasp killing kit up there, and I know that they put cyanide in some of that. You know, cyanide's a poison. There were also a few bags of records and some clothes and a bunch of other junk. Jocks had said he would have a check through and dispose of whatever needed to be thrown out. And then anything that was valuable, he would sell and give me the money. Wasn't that nice of him?
Mr. Tingle, did you like Bob Scratchit?
Oh, Bob Scratchit. He was nothing but a loudmouth snob who didn't support any of us here in this community. You know, I hate to speak bad of someone who's died, but I didn't really care for him.
What role did you play in serving the food this evening?
Well, naturally, I was surprised when Bob Scratchit asked me to host Carol Singer's party tonight. I think that he wanted to siphon off the food so he didn't have to pay as much this Christmas for that. So I wanted to ensure that he didn't steal any food, so I took charge and made sure that people had brought all the food and it went around to everyone.
Miss Bells, where does Mr. Scratchit sit when he attends the amateur dramatics performances?
Bob Scratchit always attends the first performance of any play that we do, but he always sits at the back and he has 2 seats. Come to think of it, I've never seen who comes with him. The lights are always dimmed and his guest is always late.
I heard there'd been a police raid on the Christmas panto this year. Can you shed any light on that?
Yes, our first performance was subjected to police raid this year. It was an absolute outrage. Apparently they thought there was some forged money or something changing hands in the building. They stopped the show in the 2nd act, searched everyone. Ugh, and nothing was ever found.
You said you wanted a private word with Bob Scratchit. What did you want to discuss? I heard you arguing earlier this evening. What was the argument about?
Bob Scratchit has supported the Scout troops financially for many years. He was always donating money with cash. I find working with a large sum of money difficult, so I wanted to ask him if he would write a check. He responded by asking me to step down as Scout leader. He said if I was unable to handle the money, that he should take over the Scouts. Eventually, I stormed out of the room. I was so angry.
I heard you refused to take wine to Bob earlier this evening. Why did you refuse?
Je déteste Bob. I hated that man. He was always like Mademoiselle, you're so pretty, you're so jolie, you're so fashionable. Of course I'm fashionable. I don't need a man telling me if I'm fashionable or not. And then he would just come to my shop and just sit there and just stare and just... maybe if I liked him, but I do not like that man. I avoided him all the time. Always, always, always. Tout le temps. Tout le temps.
What did you think of Bob Scratchit?
The other people there, so I just thought, I just avoid Bob and I just go and talk to everybody. But then this Chris Tinko, he asked me to bring the more wine to Bob, and because I'm so kind, of course, I'm so kind, I was like, okay. And you know, he was just so apologetic, and I just wished I hadn't gone in there at all.
Scott Spine, I saw you speaking to Bob Scratchit this evening. I saw you hand Bob Scratchit an envelope. What was in it? I saw you driving the other day, and you didn't come to a complete stop at the stop sign. How often do you do that? Do you speed through town? I've heard rumors.
Well, unfortunately, Bob Scratchit was in my way when I was in a hurry. I was desperate to have some donuts, and so I just decided I'd turn on my lights and get to the donut shop before they closed, and
I did happen to go through a stop sign. I am the law, you know, so I don't think that means anything, but Bob Scratchit happened to see me do this, and he felt like he could take my job by reporting this. And so he wanted to have a little bit of cash from me so that he would not talk.
My, what a host of motives. Did any of you like Bob Scratchit? Even a little bit? Probably not. I tell you, it's a wonder. That man wasn't dead long ago. If it's any help to you, the pathology team has concluded the poison used was cyanide. It has a faint almond aroma that was difficult to detect at first due to the Christmas fare he had been eating. But they've managed to isolate it now. Death would have been instantaneous and rather uncomfortable. Still, it sounds like we are nearly there now. I will continue with the interrogation questions, and you keep taking notes as we go. I should be able to provide some sort of summary later.